taxes, NFT taxes. The IRS is trying to figure out how to tax NFTs, non-fungible tokens. They're thinking about doing it similarly to how they would tax other collectibles. Think fine wine, fine art, you name it. Introduces all these interesting questions around getting your NFTs appraised and getting some value ascribed to them, so you can fill that out on your future tax forms. But this is something that obviously the IRS is thinking about, and it should be interesting to see where they ultimately land. Wendy, I got to throw it your way. So NFTs, IRS, what's your initial thought there?
So full disclosure, taxes are a scam and the Fed, but please pay your crypto taxes because you don't want to do any petty time over something absolutely ridiculous. I have to give that disclosure because it's really important to do so, because that's how they catch people with the taxes. Isn't that how they supposedly are going to get our former president? Anyways, I digress. So I think that they do need to establish some sort of guidelines so we know exactly what we're doing. But really, at the same time, with a tangible piece of art, you can buy it and then resell it and not even report it, and nobody would probably know unless it's a very, 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 very big piece of art that's worth a lot of money. Like, for example, you could go to a thrift store, buy something for $1 or $2, flip it for $100, and nobody is going to know. So I think that this is good tax-wise, so we know exactly what's going on and we know how to file our taxes, and we don't have to hire these crazy expensive CPAs. But at the same time, it just seems like we're going to get some sort of legislation in about taxing NFTs, and it's just going to be completely off and cause a lot of problems. But it is what it is, and we got to unfortunately pay those taxes because we need those new roads and all the money that goes to public servants, right, guys? Right?
We do.
Roads are good. Roads are good. We like the roads.
The roads in LA are so beautiful. Like, we have the highest tax rate ever, and there's just pothole after pothole after pothole. Mm-hmm. 3 out of 10 schools, go LA.
That's the point of taxes. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this a little bit more in depth. So we actually first found out about this whole thing might be changing in October of 2022. There was a change on the forum that said that they were including NFTs as a form of digital assets. That was a change versus the previous rhetoric that had talked more about digital assets in terms like, hey, let's talk about virtual currencies, let's talk about tokens, let's talk about Bitcoin. But the IRS knows that these things are out there. The NFTs were booming the last 2 years, and now people are going to tax them. My question here, I actually want to throw this question over to Zach, is like, at the end of the day, an NFT is still a token though, right? So like, yes, there's like artwork on there and like it's a collectible of sorts, but like the underlying mechanism for trading this thing is still a token, which has like some currency-like aspects. So it's sort of weird to like think of it as like being in both camps, but not necessarily completely in one or the other.
It's definitely a blockchain-based token, and it's definitely a digital asset, but it is going to be interesting to see if there's a carve-out for NFTs, and especially if NFTs are going to find sort of that mainstream use case, right? They're still sort of niche. Obviously, they caught a lot of attention during the last cycle, but there is a world in which NFTs are used a bit more creatively, where they're not just like artistically based. And there might be all sorts of loopholes and whatnot that treat NFTs differently from other digital assets, which will likely get really confusing over time. But it'd be nice to have some sort of clear standardization around these things. That's for sure.
Really quick, I know we don't have a lot of time. Will, when you're inscribing a Bitcoin ordinal, that makes it not a token. So that might be an interesting caveat for regulators. Also, too, when we're talking about tokenizing everything and using an NFT to represent it, they're going to have to come up with different classes. For example, if you tokenize real estate, my house, if I do decide to sell it and I have an NFT that verifies my ownership of the house, they're going to have to put that in a different tax category than if I have a designer bag that I have an NFT representing it and then I sell that, or a food item that I'm tracking that I buy from my local Sprouts or Whole Foods or whatever that is. So it's going to be very interesting. They're going to have categories because it's not a one size fits all for NFTs or ordinals.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a very good point. And that's like the heart of the question here, right? Like, what is an NFT and what does an NFT mean to the IRS? We're all going to find that out. Just like you point out there, Wendy, like it could be a token that represents my house or a potted plant. It can be an inscription on Bitcoin that's connected to a Satoshi. It can be like Link's DAO. You know, they have like a DAO connected to a golf course in Scotland now, and it has some tokens allocated towards it. So like, what do these things all mean? All I know is the IRS is going to get its money. We're probably not going to like how they're going to do it, but they are going to tax whatever asset you have. So you better be ready because they are definitely coming for you, specifically for you, Wendy, because you keep fighting the IRS on our show.
Hey, you know what? I pay my taxes. I paid a really ridiculous amount of taxes.
I don't get that feeling.
You know what? I paid my CPA so much money, and please, you don't even want to know. You'd probably cry. You'd cry for me.
CBDCs fix this. CBDCs. I'm telling you,
what?
programmable money, programmable taxes.